Looking over your test, questions from anything that you wanted to see? You selling stuff?
No, my bag got soaked, and all of it got soaked. That too. I don't even want to turn it on. If to explode, I'll take it with it.
No questions. 23, read it to me.
Recently, one of my neighbors moved into a new house, found his expense sheet for transportation to work looks like that. The gas bill is $55 and 60 cents. The parking is $66 if
23. So it's using this chart?
all the way.
Oh, no, it's using this chart, isn't it? It's not using that one. Orlando's budget for transportation was $165 per month. How much more or less? Alright, so he was budgeting $165 per month. Now look at that little chart. I can't see it. So we want, this is for transportation. So in that little chart, is all of them for transportation, or are they just part of, looks like all of them in there? Looks like all of them. So what are we gonna do with all four of those? Add them up. So somebody help us out. Add up those four numbers in the chart.
201.60.
It's 201.60. Is that more or less than he budgeted before? More. Now we gotta be careful here, because I didn't read the problem and I should have read it more carefully. Are they asking if he budgeted, you know, they asked,
How much?
more or less, did he spend?
Which more or less? Yeah.
Alright, so it's more this time, right? And then what do we do to figure out how much more? Subtract those two.
36.60.
36.60? Is that one of the answers? So be you have to be careful with questions like this. Shouldn't make a difference in your real life.
My phone was glitching out and I had to shut it off.
Shouldn't make a difference in your real life, because you should understand the way you're doing it, but when they're asking the question, you gotta be careful with the wording, and does it say, did he spend more or less, or did he budget more or less? Because then it's sort of backwards and it could be. But that's the answer. Other questions? Easy stuff. Allie, was it easy? Cheap? No? Are you lying to me? Well, how come you keep looking away? You know that's, yeah, you just did. You know that's when you look away to the right, when you go like this, if I'm talking and I say, you are the dumbest person I ever met. I look away to the right, that means I'm lying.
I'm not gonna let it go away.
Why don't we just get distracted so quick? Like, ooh, that's a unicorn, goes back.
All right, chapter 4, checking accounts. Checking accounts, which a lot of people don't use checks anymore, but we're going to talk about them. Some people still do.
I had to deal with this a couple 2 weeks ago.
Do what?
I had to go back up 2 weeks ago.
Even if you don't deal with the checking, writing the checks and stuff like that anymore, you will deal with a lot of the other stuff, making deposits and, you know, using the ATM. some, what do you got? I'm gonna say some businesses still write checks a lot when they're paying off bills, because they want that paper written form that they have approving, hey, I paid for this and I paid for this. So a lot of businesses, when they're doing things, I know when it's been a few years, but when I worked at convenience store for all those years, everything that we bought, whether it was from Pepsi, Coke, you know, whatever company we were buying from, we wrote checks. But that's because they had to have a paper copy of every invoice and everything that they did so that they could keep track of it throughout the year.
Hey, what's the second to the last word?
Brokerage. B-R-O-K-E-R-A-G. B-R-O-K-E-R-A-G. Sorry, my throat was.
It happens to us.
What? When you make a deposit, and whenever I make a deposit for the Teachers Association here at school, it always confuses me because the bank down at Eaton, they got deposit slips, which we're gonna look at deposit slips. They got deposit slips for checking accounts, and then they got deposit slips for savings accounts. As long as you put the account number on there, I wouldn't think it'd matter, but apparently it does, because every time I write one out, it seems like I picked the wrong one, and then the teller has to rewrite it on the correct one. We'll look at deposit slips. When you use a deposit slip, it'll have places for checks, currency, coins, so on and so on. And then the one thing on the deposit slip that's gonna confuse a lot of you, it'll say less money, or something like that, and all that is money that you're taking out. So when you go to make a deposit, it'll have a line on there, hey, I'm depositing all this money, but then I want $50 given back to me in cash. Which a lot of times, it doesn't seem like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you're depositing money, and if it's currency and everything, but then you want $50, and you're thinking, okay, why did I just deposit it and then get money back? And again, when I worked for the convenience store, I had to do it that way so that there was a record of where all the money was and where it came from and all the different things. Otherwise, they thought I was stealing money. So you had to have that record. So I deposit $1,000 and then tell them I wanted $50 back. But I had to show that I was depositing all the previous days' money. That had to be accounted for. And then the bank was giving me back money to put back in the safe or whatever for change for the store. A direct deposit, my check here at school is always directly deposited, so, and most businesses do this now. Most businesses don't write checks to pay their employees. Anybody have any idea why they don't write checks to pay employees anymore? It's expensive. Costs a lot of money to write a check and pay each employee with a check. It's easier just to direct deposit it. When they first went to direct deposit here at Trail, they gave me the choice of having it directly deposited or still getting a check. But then like 2 years later, they said, all right, you got no choice now. It has to be direct deposit. And a lot of businesses are doing that now, so everything's electronic instead of paper. An automatic teller machine, probably know what an automatic teller machine is.
ATM?
ATM. You see them all over the place. Another thing, when Obama was president, another rule that he put through was that ATMs couldn't charge more than a certain amount, because ATMs were getting a little ridiculous. You'd go to a concert or something where they knew that they had you stuck and you couldn't leave the concert to go get money, so you had to use that ATM, and they'd charge you like $6, $7, $8 to withdraw any cash from the ATM. Or places like Kings Island or somewhere like that, they know they got you and you're stuck in the park. The ATMs were charging ridiculous amounts, and Obama put through a rule saying that you couldn't charge over a certain amount. Now, that rule is sort of gone by the wayside now, because now a lot of the ATMs are going up and up and up. So, something you need to watch for. My wife gets mad all the time if I'm somewhere and I don't feel like it's just convenience, and I draw out $20 and they charge me $4. $4 of $20 is 20%. So they're charging me 20% just for using their machine. That's sort of illegal.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What is the point of the ATM if it's gonna be useless?
It's not technically useless if you don't go and need it.
Yeah, if you need the money
But then it charges you.
Not all the time, depending if it's
for
within the
convenience.
amount.
Right, and there are some that if you find, like, most of our stuff is done through US Bank. So if I find an ATM that is through US Bank, then they don't charge me. Actually, they do charge you, but then if you bank through them, they get rid of the charge at the end of the month.
They charge you for getting money.
Right.
It's basically like getting a truck, but they take away the tires.
Oh, God.
I mean, that's one way to say it, but, you know. It doesn't make any
They
sense.
charge you for the convenience that,
I know, but still, it doesn't make any sense.
that make sure you don't use them so that they can't take your money.
I know.
The other, also with ATMs, US Bank is affiliated with a lot of other banking companies and different things. So at the end of the month, even if I do get charged an ATM fee at certain ATMs, at the end of the month, sometimes they'll take off those fees. They'll put the money back in there. So you need to know, depending on what bank you're banking with, who they're affiliated with, and if you're gonna get charged for using the ATMs. Now, in most little convenience stores, the ATMs in there are just personally owned, and they charge you regardless. And you also have to know too, with using an ATM, a lot of times, not only will the ATM charge you, but you gotta know what bank you're dealing with, because sometimes the bank will have a charge for using somebody else's ATM. So you might only get charged $1 at the ATM machine, then your bank charges you another $1 or $2 or something for having that. So you gotta know how that's set up through your bank. Your PIN number, your personal identification number, is what you have to punch in so that nobody else can just find your card and stick it in there and take out your money. make sure it's something that you can remember. My PIN number's 1234. Remember that, Bo? Seth, what's your PIN number? Can't trick Seth, can I?
And the joke's on you, I don't have one.
So, alright.
He's like, I'm broke. It's okay.
Make sure too that when you're using these, make sure that you are keeping track. Make sure that you're keeping track of the money that you use. Bad thing with ATMs, that's just giving you the money. You get Tage, and Tage thinks, oh, it just passes out free money. No, that's money that's coming out of your account. And you gotta make sure that you don't overdraw from your account, because then you go negative, and then what happens, your bank charges you, usually the fees are like $50 or $75. So sometimes, and that depends too, if it's US Bank, that depends on what kind of account you have with them. I know our account through US Bank, we're considered gold members because we have our mortgage through them, we have our car loan through them, and we have all this different stuff, so we're considered gold members through them, and then they don't charge us as much with silly stuff like that. Or there's they'll actually, before they charge us, they'll send us out a notice and say, hey, you overdrew this account. If you can get the money in here within 48 hours, then we won't charge you $36 or whatever, so.
Well,
you-
there's one way to get free money from the ATM.
Seth, make sure you do that, then you won't have to worry about none of this, cause you'll get free meals and everything.
Free rent.
Free rent,
Free gym.
yep. Free gym,
For 10 minutes of outside.
free boyfriend, that's the big one.
Whether you want one or not.
Yep.
Got my pocket buddy.
Leroy, about 6'5", 300 pounds. He talks like this.
No, if he talked like that, then his name would be
Just
Lester.
there for
That's
domestic.
I got a lot.
He's in there for beating a baby.
All right, the formula. All it is on this formula, nothing really hard about this section. Currency plus the coins plus the checks minus, I can't remember what I said. Different ones will have different things on it. This says cash received. That means cash that you're taking back. Easy stuff. What's currency? What's considered, what are we talking about when we're saying currency?
Money.
Paper money, alright, and then you got coins, and checks, any checks, there might be a list of checks, and we're gonna look at a couple deposit slips and stuff, different things that you use in a checking account. Alright, this is a check, we're writing this check, so, I have to write a check later today for this, and it goes to Ohio Education Association. for that amount. We're gonna talk more as this chapter goes on about how to write checks and stuff. But this is the main thing. We'll go over it just a little bit. Make sure you know what check number. This one says check 0 because it's just a fake check, all right? So it'll have some check number up there, and that's so you can keep track of what you paid, you know, whoever with. Today's date is the 31st, so 10/31/22. Make sure you put the date in there. When I grew up here in hillbilly heaven, my parents, not real well off, all right? Probably, I don't wanna say we were one of the poorer families, but not a whole lot of money, all right? So my mom might do something like, if she was paying this bill, she might write this check and put the date on it of like 11/7 or something. Date it ahead of time so that they couldn't cash it. And people, DP&L or whoever would get upset with her and contact her and say, hey, you put the wrong date on this check. They'd have to send it back and she'd have to redo it. And then by the time everything got done, it'd be 11/7. And she'd have the money to pay the DP&L bill. But if she would have paid it today, she didn't have the money, and it would have, we've been overdrawn. Don't do stuff like that. Just make sure you have the money. Pay to the order of, you gotta put who you're paying it to. Ohio Education Association is who I have to pay later today. When you're writing this, make sure, and I don't think the Ohio Education Association is gonna try to rip me off or anything, but when I put my amount in this little box, don't do this. Let's say it was $9,732.58. What'd I do wrong there?
You did have a space. Like this.
Way too much space. Don't leave any space there. Because if I'm paying Seth, and we already know that Seth is talking about stealing ATMs. So if I'm paying Seth, what's he gonna do here?
Get your free boyfriend in.
It sticks another number in front of there,
29,000.
and all of a sudden now, he's gonna get $29,000 instead of just $9,000. Alright?
He would be happy, but you would.
Right. So make sure you don't leave space there. Make sure that space is filled up all the way that way. Don't care if they add numbers on the end out here because there's only 2 places behind the decimal in our money anyway. When you're, this next line, you gotta write it out in words. And as we go, again, as we go throughout this chapter, we're gonna learn how to write it out in words. This one would go something like, and different things teach you different ways. As long as you have it correct. There's been a couple of times I've written checks to Ohio Education Association, and I wrote it wrong on this line, and they had to send the check back to me. And I had to rewrite another check. So this one, 9,000. You're just writing it out in words. And a lot of, this book I think teaches not to write the word and in there anywhere. I put the word and. If you don't put the word and, I don't think it's that big a deal. 9,700. And 32, ignore that. And then you draw in a little thing, again, not leaving any space. A lot of times, you know, most of the checks you're gonna write, Peyton, probably aren't gonna be for $9,000 like the one that I have to write. Alright, so it's gonna have more space there than that. You just draw a line all the way over to here. 100 goes on the bottom. How come 100 on the bottom? That's what a dollar is, right? So it's 58 cents out of total of 100 possible. Make sure on your memo line, a lot of times they'll say something else other than memo here. But on this line, you're putting what it's for. And this one, I would put first payment, dues, 22-23. So it's gonna be the first payment that I have to make to OEA for the 22-23 school year. And then this last line is your signature. That's how you fill out a check. Then once you have the check filled out, this is what my, what's it called, register looks like. My check register looks like this. And I just come in here and I put the check number here. So it was check number 00001031. I put what it was for, first payment, OEA 22-23. And I have to keep good records of this because somebody comes in and thinks that Ebersole's embezzling money from the Teachers Association account. I gotta be able to prove that I'm not. And here it's got, if you had a class with Mr. Wendell, you got payment, which is debit, or a deposit, which is credit. So payment, you're taking away from your account. Credit, you're adding to your account. This time we're taking away, and it was $9,732.58. Then over here, I have a balance back there with what I actually have in the account right now, and you just subtract that to see what's in the account after I make this payment. But this is called a register, check register. We're gonna talk about that as the chapter goes along. A deposit slip, this is more what we were talking about today. Deposit slip, this is what a deposit slip looks like. If you go to the bank, you're gonna have a deposit slip, put the date, the name, whatever your name is. A lot of them don't even have name on it. They don't care about your name. All they wanna know is your account number. So whatever the account number is that you're trying to deposit money into. This one here has only got cash and checks on it. It could have coins, other things on here, but this has just got cash, so they want just all your cash that you're putting in there. Maybe you got $78.32. Then checks, notice there's several spaces for checks. So you might be putting in 4 or 5 different checks that people have paid you with. So you put something like check number 2135. That's from one person. Then another check might have been check number 0152 from somebody else. And another check might have been check number 0012 from somebody else. And you put how much each one of those were. $35.12, $15.20, $132.78. And then you total all those up, and that goes right here. And again, this less cash, this is the one that seems, or the part that seems to confuse most every student. Not every student, but a lot of students. That's how much cash you're getting back. So I'm putting money into this account, and then I say, okay, I need cash back to go buy supplies or go buy whatever. That's what this is. So we total all these up. This line is going to be the positive that we're putting into the account. But then we're going to subtract this off. Let's say I want $50 in cash. We're going to subtract that off because that's the negative. We're taking that out to buy supplies, buy whatever it is that we're dealing with. And then this down here would be your total that you're actually depositing into account 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Easy stuff. Assignment, it's on page 180.
I think